This isn't speculation. This isn't hopium. This is the hard math of scarcity. And if you hold XRP, or you're even considering holding, it's time to pay serious attention. Right now, we're entering a phase that few are prepared for. A convergence of utility, institutional adoption, and hard supply mechanics is about to make XRP not just valuable, but scarce. Not because of hype, not because of influencers, but because the world is quietly restructuring around real-time liquidity, and XRP sits directly in that pipeline. Ripple has already positioned itself in corridors across Asia, the Middle East, Latin America, and Europe. But what most people still don't realize is that these corridors don't just use XRP. They depend on it. And that means demand pressure is about to hit the system like a freight train. Meanwhile, the available supply is shrinking. Not theoretically, not metaphorically, but mathematically. XRP is getting locked up, absorbed into liquidity hubs, and integrated into infrastructure that removes it from the open market. And this is what the market's missing. Forget meme coins. Forget TikTok hype. You're about to see how the very mechanics of the XRP ecosystem are designed to reduce available supply over time, just as demand from real utility goes vertical. This video is your deep dive. We're unpacking 5 powerful forces that are converging right now to make XRP scarce and, as a result, potentially explosive in value. And if you're holding, this is exactly what you need to understand to front-run the rest of the market. Smash that subscribe button right now if you're ready to see what's actually coming. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand why scarcity isn't just a buzzword in XRP's world. It's the base layer of its long-term value. XRP's liquidity utility is turning into a supply sink, written in your signature bCrypto smart tone. Direct, data-backed, commentary-heavy, and built to grip the viewer from start to finish. Let's start with what most people think they understand about XRP, and then pull back the curtain. XRP isn't just another crypto. It's not a store of value like Bitcoin. It's not a smart contract platform like Ethereum. It's not trying to be your next meme token. It's something more fundamental, more embedded, and ultimately more scarce. XRP is a liquidity engine, a bridge asset, a rail for capital that connects disconnected payment systems in real time. And if you want to understand why XRP is on the verge of becoming scarce and extremely valuable, you have to understand what it actually does. The real role of XRP in the global economy. Here's the most important sentence in this entire section. XRP isn't just bought and sold. It's used. When a company, say a remittance provider, wants to send money from the US to Mexico, it faces a core problem. The US dollar isn't accepted in Mexico, and traditional FX markets are slow, expensive, and fragmented. Enter XRP. The process looks like this. US dollars are converted into XRP. XRP is sent in seconds to a Mexican exchange or partner. It's then converted into pesos on the other end. That's what Ripple's On-Demand Liquidity, ODL product does. And every time that process happens, XRP is required. Now, multiply that by thousands of corridors, billions of dollars in transactions, and dozens of enterprise integrations. Suddenly, XRP isn't just a digital asset, it's fuel. And like jet fuel in a busy airport, the more demand there is for movement, the less fuel is left on hand. But here's the kicker. This fuel doesn't burn. It gets absorbed. The XRP liquidity loop, where the scarcity begins. In theory, people say XRP can be recycled. That once it's used in a transaction, it's sold back to the market. In practice, that's not what's happening. We're seeing the emergence of a phenomenon that's drastically underappreciated: closed-loop liquidity retention. XRP gets pulled off exchanges, used in payment corridors, and held in internal treasuries, liquidity hubs, and reserve balances. That XRP doesn't return to the open market. It's not flipped. It's not dumped. It's integrated. Now let's break down the 3 biggest mechanisms that are actively shrinking XRP's liquid supply, whether the mainstream realizes it or not. 1. Liquidity hubs are black holes for XRP. When Ripple launched its liquidity hub, it wasn't just trying to help businesses source assets. It was building a foundational layer for global finance. Here's how it works. Liquidity Hub allows institutions, fintech firms, and payment providers to access pooled liquidity in real time, using XRP as a bridge asset between fiat pairs or crypto assets. But for this to work efficiently, those hubs need a reserve of XRP ready to go at all times. Not in a wallet, not sitting on Binance. Inside the hub, that XRP is committed. It becomes operational capital, not speculative capital. This is where the analogy of XRP becoming financial plumbing comes in. And what happens to plumbing? Stays installed. You don't rip out pipes after every transaction. You build around them. That's what these institutions are doing with XRP. As more hubs come online, across Latin America, the Middle East, Asia Pacific, and Europe, more XRP gets pulled into permanent reserve status. Even small hubs need tens of millions of XRP to function efficiently. RippleNet partners like Tranglo, SBI Remit, PYYPL, and Novati are already onboarding. That's not hype. That's absorption. 2. Programmatic escrow, misunderstood by 95% of crypto. Critics love to scream, but XRP has 100 billion supply. What they never mention is how that supply is locked and throttled. Ripple holds a large portion of XRP in escrow accounts, set up specifically to release 1 billion XRP per month maximum, with any unused portion sent right back into escrow. Here's what's happened in practice. Ripple consistently releases less than the max allowable. The portion that isn't used for enterprise integrations gets relocked. Most distributions now target institutional clients, not retail sales. This isn't a token flood. It's a calculated trickle. And more importantly, most of that XRP is not entering circulation. It's being allocated to strategic liquidity partnerships, programmatic integrations in corridors, enterprise reserves. According to Messari and other analytics platforms, real circulating supply is closer to 15 to 20 billion XRP, not the full 100 billion. That means when price charts are calculated using the max supply, it completely misrepresents XRP's actual liquidity dynamics. We are looking at an asset where 80% of the total supply is functionally off the table. So when demand ramps up and it doesn't hit 100 billion units of supply, it slams into a brick wall of scarcity. 3. Market makers, the invisible hands locking up XRP. Now, let's talk about the silent operators, the market makers. In traditional finance, market makers provide liquidity by buying and selling rapidly, earning profits on spreads and fees. To do this efficiently in cross-border corridors, they need working reserves of XRP. Not for speculation, for functionality. These reserves let them provide instant quotes, near-instant settlement, and support for RippleNet transactions. Every active corridor needs at least one or two major liquidity providers holding XRP as capital. The more corridors that come online, the more XRP gets parked in these vaults. Permanently. These aren't whales day trading. These are operators locking down working capital. Why? Because speed equals profit. And XRP gives them speed. Just like market makers in FX don't flip their currency positions every hour, XRP market makers build inventory and sit on it. This behavior is anti-liquid. It's the opposite of speculative trading. And it's one of the main reasons we're seeing long-term exchange outflows and institutional XRP wallets ballooning. Supply on exchanges is dwindling right now. Let's look at the on-chain signals. According to Sentiment, XRPL Explorer, and other blockchain analytics, the supply of XRP on centralized exchanges is consistently dropping quarter over quarter. Less XRP is available for retail purchase. More XRP is sitting in enterprise addresses, off-market. The amount of XRP held by wallets with long holding durations is climbing. This is the setup for a future price explosion. Supply is drying up. Demand is slowly ramping. And unlike other tokens where supply can be inflated or adjusted, XRP has no inflation mechanism. There's no staking reward printing more XRP. No validator payout in XRP. No mining. What's minted is minted. What's burned is burned. What's locked is locked. That's fixed supply economics. Transaction volume plus utility equals XRP stickiness. There's another layer. The concept of stickiness. The more a system uses XRP, the harder it becomes to remove or replace it. ODL transactions, RippleNet corridors, and enterprise payment flows are not one-time use cases. They're systems built on XRP. Once integrated, the incentive is to keep using it, not switch to a slower, more expensive option. And every new participant in the network further entrenches XRP's role. We're watching a classic network effect at work, but tied to a fixed supply asset. As usage grows, replacement becomes impossible. XRP stops being a coin and becomes infrastructure. And infrastructure gets budgeted, not flipped. XRP is functionally scarce and becoming physically scarce. Let's zoom out. You've got escrow-based supply throttling, liquidity hubs absorbing XRP permanently, market makers holding XRP as capital, institutional-grade integrations demanding XRP float, a growing on-chain economy on XRPL that uses XRP for liquidity and collateral. All while, XRP is being used in over 70 corridors globally. Developers are building applications that denominate in XRP. Central banks are piloting systems that use XRP for bridging CBDCs. And that's all before retail wakes up again. So while most of crypto is obsessing over meme coins and speculative pumps, XRP is undergoing a silent supply squeeze that will only become obvious in hindsight. It's not just a price waiting to rise. It's a supply that's already disappearing. And when the next demand spike hits, the market won't be ready. But you will be, because you saw what most never looked for. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, tokenization and CBDCs. Everyone's talking about them, but very few understand what they actually mean for XRP's supply mechanics. Let's break this down clearly. 1. Tokenized assets need bridge assets. Tokenization is the process of putting real-world assets on-chain. That includes currencies, commodities, treasuries, real estate, you name it. But tokenizing an asset is only part of the equation. The real value is in moving those tokenized assets across borders. And that's where XRP comes in. Ripple's new tokenization platform, launched in 2024, allows for everything from central bank stablecoins to private equity on-chain. And when these assets need to move from chain to chain or from one jurisdiction to another, XRP is the connector. That demand doesn't just create volume, it creates ongoing XRP retention. Just like physical cash sits in vaults to back certain financial functions, XRP will sit inside tokenized ecosystems to enable liquidity. The more tokenization grows, the more XRP gets locked. 2. CBDCs are not XRP's competition, they're its customers. Here's the twist everyone gets wrong. CBDCs aren't here to kill XRP. They're here to use it. Ripple is working with over 20 central banks on CBDC pilots, from Bhutan to Montenegro to Colombia, and likely more that aren't public. The XRP ledger allows for private issuances of CBDCs that can still bridge publicly via XRP for cross-border functionality. Translation: these banks won't need to build bilateral systems with every other country. They'll use XRP as the universal intermediary. Once again, more usage equals more XRP held in treasury equals less on exchanges. And when CBDCs roll out at scale, which they will, the XRP used to bridge them won't be casually dumped. It'll become part of their architecture. Regulatory clarity is unlocking institutional buy-in. Now let's talk about the trigger that makes all of this possible. Clarity. 1. The SEC versus Ripple case was a supply shock catalyst. When Judge Torres ruled that XRP is not a security when sold on exchanges, she did more than just end a lawsuit. She sent a signal to the world. XRP is clear for institutional usage. That clarity is the single most powerful unlock Ripple could have asked for. It means banks can now hold, use, and deploy XRP in ways they legally couldn't before. And we're already seeing the first signs. SBI launched XRP trading for institutions in Japan. HSBC opened crypto custody, including XRP. US-based banks are in exploratory talks with Ripple. That clarity means XRP is now on the menu for treasuries, payment firms, fintech providers, and sovereign wealth funds. 2. Clarity plus utility equals scarcity. This is the part most retail investors still don't grasp. Institutional capital isn't here for meme coins. It's here for rails. And when it shows up, it doesn't buy and sell, it accumulates. It locks in large positions to hold long-term, to use as capital assets, to stake and to lend against. Just like Apple doesn't day trade its USD reserves, institutions that use XRP won't day trade either. They'll hold. They'll lock. They'll build around it. And the result? Circulating XRP dries up. Supply on exchanges shrinks. Demand keeps climbing. We're not guessing. We're already seeing XRP outflows from exchanges increase month by month, indicating accumulation, not distribution. This is the liquidity squeeze no one is pricing in. XRP ledger expansion equals built-in absorption. Now we zoom out and look at the full XRPL ecosystem. Because XRP isn't just a bridge asset, it's the lifeblood of a growing economy. And that economy is being built now. 1. XRPL is becoming a multi-asset settlement layer. Thanks to recent upgrades like XLS30, automated market makers, native stablecoins, and Hook's smart contracts, the XRP ledger is no longer just for payments. It's a full-on programmable financial layer. DeFi, tokenization, NFTs, private ledgers, they're all here or coming in 2025. And here's the kicker. Almost every major function on XRPL either uses or benefits from XRP as a settlement asset. That includes AMM trading pairs, decentralized exchange liquidity, payment channel collateral, Oracle fees, NFT minting costs, and much more. As activity on XRPL increases, XRP becomes the gas, not in the Ethereum sense but in the liquidity sense. Builders hold it. Protocols require it. DXs denominate it. It gets absorbed into the economy. And in case you missed it, XRPL dev activity is up 500% since 2023. The ecosystem is booming. 2. Enterprise builders are quietly accumulating. Entities like Axlar, Persist, Palau, and even sidechain developers are building directly on XRPL. These aren't retail investors. These are enterprise-grade builders who are structuring projects around XRP as an operational currency. Each integration absorbs supply. Each partnership creates retention. Every developer that builds with XRP is another reason for the asset to be locked, not sold. We're watching an ecosystem where XRP isn't just useful. It's necessary. The final catalyst, price doesn't reflect reality. Here's where it all comes together. Everything we've covered, liquidity sinks, CBDC integrations, regulatory clarity, and XRPL expansion is already happening. But the price? Still lagging. And that's exactly why this moment is so critical. 1. XRP's market cap doesn't reflect locked supply. If XRP had the same circulating supply as its true available supply, it would already be double or triple in price. But exchanges still reflect full float, even though 40 to 60% of that float is off-market, locked in treasuries or in escrow. This creates a disconnect. You're buying based on a diluted cap, but what you actually own is part of a shrinking pool. That's how explosive scarcity works. When the market realizes that what it thought was supply doesn't actually exist. 2. The next supply shock will be silent, then sudden. Here's the truth. There won't be a warning bell. XRP's next price move won't come with a news article. It'll come when liquidity crunches, when exchanges can't fill large orders, when institutions absorb the rest of what's available. Then the price spikes, and retail scrambles to buy what's left. By then, it'll be too late. That's why this is the moment to understand what's coming. Scarcity is not a theory. It's already in motion. Let's wrap this up. XRP isn't a meme coin. It's not chasing hype. It's building infrastructure, and that infrastructure absorbs supply. Every liquidity corridor, every enterprise partner, every CBDC bridge, every smart contract function on XRPL. All of them require XRP. All of them retain XRP. The result? Scarcity by design. This is what makes XRP not just valuable, but structurally limited. And when you combine that with rising institutional demand, global regulatory clarity, and XRPL ecosystem expansion, you get one thing: explosive upside, built on a shrinking base. If you're holding XRP right now, understand, The market still doesn't see what's coming. But you do, and that puts you ahead. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart right now for more insights that go beyond the headlines and show you the real mechanics behind the space. Because scarcity is no longer a future narrative. It's already here, and those who understand it first will be the ones who benefit most.